Well, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ted Kirscher. I'm Human Resources Director for the City of Pensacola. I want to welcome our candidates and you all out to our public forum tonight. I'm going to introduce our Mayor, D.C. Reeves, who's going to bring you a welcome. Mayor?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. No one's here to listen to me, and most politicians aren't self-aware enough of that, so I'll be very brief, other than to say how much I appreciate not only our three candidates for going through a long day of meetings today and tomorrow, and we appreciate their effort in being here, and certainly what we wanted to do today and what we wanted to accomplish today was that this is not certainly something that we have to do. This is a decision that's typically made administratively, but we understand that public safety doesn't matter your age, your race, your political party, that public safety and us and our children and our grandchildren being safe where they sleep is the number one most important issue. So we certainly wanted to, we know that this is a front-facing job. Certainly I know the three of these guys know that. And we wanted to make sure that the community had an opportunity to ask their questions. So that is it. Again, thank you so much for this great turnout. I appreciate all of our staff helping put this together, all of our community members that have been a part of this process, and looking forward to the conversation. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight's forum is designed to give the community an opportunity to meet our candidates and to hear what their vision is for this, the Pensacola Police Department. All the questions you hear tonight were developed from public input. Each candidate will be asked the same question and will be given the same amount of time to respond. We think this structure adds to a fair and meaningful conversation. In order to maintain that fairness, I ask that you please refrain from applause, from cheering, jeering, whatever you wish to do with your candidates, please, so we can allow them to have the maximum amount of time to respond. So we're joined tonight by three highly qualified finalists. They will formally introduce themselves in a moment. But we have with us first Chief Brian Dugan.
Hello, everybody.
Deputy Chief Eric Goss. And Chief Eric Winstrom. So each candidate will now have 3 minutes for an opening statement, and we'll begin first with Chief Dugan.
Good evening, everyone. As you said, my name's Brian Dugan. I spent 31 years at the Tampa Police Department. I born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Moved to Tampa 2 days before I started the police academy 30-some years ago. And like I said, for 31 years I worked there. My final 4 years I was the chief of police. Since I retired 4 years ago, I've been currently working as a consultant to law enforcement. Spent 3 months in New Orleans last year after the January 1 attack, advising the New Orleans Police Department how they could secure Bourbon Street, the French Quarter, Mardi Gras, and Super Bowl. Obviously, being from Tampa, I have a tremendous amount of experience of how those things are done. It's good to be here. Thank you guys for being here. It's really important. This is such an important position. You know, the job of a police officer is so important, and it's a tremendous responsibility. And to be the chief of police is an even greater responsibility. You're responsible for the safety of the residents and the safety of the police officers. There's many dual responsibilities that you have to do. You have to balance a lot of different things. And so I thank you for being here. You know, tonight is the beginning of a new chapter for the Pensacola Police Department and the City of Pensacola and its residents. It's a new chapter. And by you being here, you asking questions of us that have been put in, and with these two other gentlemen, hopefully we can start writing that chapter tonight in a informative, deliberate way that makes this one of the best cities to live. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. And now, Chief Goss.
Hello, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Eric Goss. I am the Deputy Chief of Police here in the City of Pensacola. A little bit of background: I have a master's degree in criminal justice administration. I'm a former FOP Lodge president. I'm also a former labor board director for the state of Florida. More importantly, I'm a husband and a father, and I live here in the City of Pensacola. Those are my greatest joys. My wife works in the city limits of Pensacola. My kid goes to school in the city limits of Pensacola. I believe in this community, and I'm so proud of it and so honored to be just a part of this. And I can't wait to show off all the great things that my men and women are doing at the police department for your community. I can't wait for the feedback to what y'all have. This is your police department. I'm just a part of it, and this is yours and how you want to see it grow. And I'm just so honored to be that my local department has backed me. So many of you in the community that backed me, and it is overwhelming and it's humbling, and I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to continue to grow this as the best police department that ever. And I'm committed to this, and this is not a stepping stone for me. This is not a next chapter. This is my life, and this is just honored to be here. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief Goss. And now Chief Winstrom.
Thanks, Ted. Yeah, Eric Winstrom. I was born in Buffalo, New York, lived in Austin, Texas, northern New Jersey, moved around a lot, ended up being a police officer in Chicago for over 21 years, also an attorney. One of my greatest accomplishments in Chicago, head of the citywide child sex crime investigation team. I was a commanding officer for policy and procedure, promoted up to commander, and made the move over to the city of Grand Rapids. It'll be 4 years ago in March. I've looking at this room and seeing how many people are in this room, and let me just say that that speaks a lot to the care that the city of Pensacola has in public safety as well. It's easy to find people like me from Buffalo, from Chicago, from the Northeast, live in Pensacola. It's harder to find people from Pensacola that move to those places because this is a very special city. I have been accused of bringing the cold with me. I apologize for that. I fly out on Thursday, so it shouldn't be a problem. But a very special city, a very well-respected police department, and very honored to be considered for this position.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Our first question, we'll start with Chief Goss will go first, and then we'll go to Chief Winstrom and then Chief Dugan. So what are your top 3 priorities for the Pensacola Police Department? Chief Goss?
Well, I think right now, and maybe some of the public aren't aware of what other issues that we are going through. We have a little bit of a technology, it's not an issue, but there's a technology thing where our radios are starting to reach end of life. So we've got a big budget thing coming up. We're actively searching out and researching a couple different companies to where we can do that and looking for some grant funding so we can save the taxpayers a lot of money. So that's the one thing. We're also looking at our cars. You know, we plan out and we try to prepare how many cars that we can have on the streets. Well, price goes up, right? Price goes up, lost dollars are what they are. City budget is what it is. So you'll roll out, and we came up with a plan to start saving you taxpayer guys some money, is you're gonna start seeing some gray Ford Explorers instead of our black and white Tahoes. Considerably cheaper. They work just as good. The gray color's a lot cheaper than putting on these multicolored things, so we're looking at that. The other problem, and it's not so much a problem here as where it might be in other areas, is retention and hiring of good quality officers. Well, we've been really good because we've got a really great community that really backs the police. So in our mayor's office, it's worked well with our contracts. So we have a really good plan in place for that. We also we don't want backlog. We want your officers on the street instead of waiting in training. If you look at an officer from day one to hire to all the way when they're back on the street, you're looking at a good year. They got to go through the academy. They got to go through a long FTO program. There's no guarantee they're going to make it. It's a tough job and it's a hard job. So we're developing a plan in place. We're reserve officers. We'll be training them part-time so we can put them through part-time to FTO. And that way, as soon as another spot opens up, we don't miss a beat on the street, and we have that active. And then there's a 3, but I can keep going all day. I care about my guys and the officer morale, about what they want, and I want them happy, and I want them here, and I want you guys happy, and I want you to be proud as I am of the officers that we have.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Now, Chief Winstrom, same question.
I'll use,
your top 3 priorities.
I'll use Chief Goss last as my first, and that's officer morale. When you talk about challenges with the police department, just about every challenge that needs to be overcome is going to require great personnel, great professional employees, and sworn employees. So officer morale is definitely on the top 3. Technology is number 2. When I started as a police officer, I wrote arrest reports in triplicate with carbon paper. It's moving so quickly as far as advances in AI, questions of how does the community want to be policed? What sort of sensitivity is there to surveillance? And where's the balance there between effective policing and privacy concerns? And number 3, I'd say, is definitely community trust. There is a lot of trust in this police department, a lot of trust in this city, but it can be higher. I want to get the police department to a place where everyone feels is safe, no matter where you live or who you are in the police department, in a very safe neighborhood. Show me a neighborhood where trust is in the police, where you see a marked squad car go by and you feel safer, and that's a safe neighborhood. And we got to get to the position where trust in the police is an all-time high in Pensacola.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Chief Dugan?
Yeah, I think we're all on the same boat here, maybe different numbers. I would put trust as number one. I think that's what you really have to work on. You have to work on having your police officers trust their chief of police. You have to have the community trust their chief of police. And if they trust the chief, then it starts running down throughout the organization. It's about setting the tone and walking the walk and talking the talk. We'll use data-driven methods to police. We'll let people know why we're in a certain neighborhood, why we're doing what we're doing, and that's how we will build trust. I think the second opportunity, you have to take a look at technology. How can we work smarter, not harder? What are we doing with the technology that we have? Is it working? Is it being implemented properly? Did we consult with the end user when we bought things? What are those recurring costs that are tied to that technology? These are the things that come into play. And then three is, officer wellness programs. We talk about building morale. We talk about how important it is that we take care of our officers. We need to make sure we're actually doing that. And that is sitting down and talking to them and making sure they have the support that they need. One of the things that has happened over the years is we got so engaged with community policing and being so community oriented, and it's very important, but I think law enforcement has kind of forgotten the street cops. And the pendulum has swung back, but I think that's, taking a look at officer wellness is going to be key.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. Our next question, we'll start with Chief Winstrom and go to Chief Dugan and Chief Goss. So, according to the feedback we've received from the public, some residents have expressed concerns about violent crime and gang activity. What's your plan to reduce crime and improve public safety in our city?
Let's start with gang activity, and that's something that's been a very big focus of mine and policing. There's really two different theories there. One is the traditional gangs driven by financial gain, gangs that are selling drugs, et cetera. But what I've seen in my own jurisdiction, and I know it's gone across the country, are young people who are finding their acceptance, really their love and acceptance from other young people who have no stake in conformity. They're not members of a sports team. They're not in any sort of faith group. They don't attend church. They're not in a drama program, after-school program. They might not have the support at home. So when you're talking about a 15-year-old involved in violent crime, you really have to understand that sometimes you're talking about a 15-year-old that's looking to get their love and acceptance from other 15-year-olds which don't have that support. So focusing on the young people and making sure that they have the mentorship and support. Let them know that the city of Pensacola loves them, that they care about them, that there is hope in their lives, because the best way to deal with crime is to stop it from happening altogether. And when you focus on the young people, that makes all the difference. Was that the whole question, Ted?
It was public safety and gang activity.
Public safety,
crime.
gang activity. I will touch on something I believe Chief Dugan mentioned, and that is communicating with the community as far as safety measures. We all know that you can look at data and identify a section of the city where crime is higher. Well, the problem is traditionally, and I'm talking decades past, not from us, but the response of police chiefs has been, we're going to saturate that area with police officers, and that's going to be safety. Perhaps that makes a difference, but also what that does, if the community's not on board, you become an occupying army. It becomes an us against them attitude. So having those communication, having those sit-downs with the community and let them know, we've seen an uptick in crime in this area. We want to do something about it, but we want to co-produce that safety with you.
Thank you. Chief Winstrom. Chief Dugan?
So where it gets a little tricky in the state of Florida, if you want to label somebody a gang member, they have to meet certain criteria. And but I always take the philosophy, if somebody wants to act like a gang, then we will treat them like a gang. And we will gather information. We will rely on people in the community and in those neighborhoods to tell us what's going on, what their activity is. When it comes to the crime fight, a chief's police police card, the police report, the crime report, is the chief's report card. It's the department's report card. It's about having confidence in your police. It's about communicating. Under me, I will focus on 5 crimes. It will be auto burglary, theft, and robbery. And then the 5th one will be gun violence. And we will look at all gun violence. The reality when it comes to shootings and gun violence is you can't look at whether it was an aggravated assault, whether it was a battery with a weapon, or if it's a homicide. Because the only difference between an aggravated assault and a homicide is if the bad guy had better aim, they would be dead. So, and I don't make light of that. And so you have to take a overall look at all of your gun violence and get to the bottom of it and figure out who the trigger pullers are, who the victims are, and take a look at everything, where it's happening, when it's happening, and police accordingly.
Thank you. Chief Goss, same question about violent crime and gang activity.
All right. First off, I got some good news on that. We were already the 4th safest city, and I just got stats back recently that we were also additional 17% down. And that is a direct reflect of those men and women that work these streets, and not the ones that work the streets, but also our intel department and our dispatch that does it. But it's also a direct reflect of the community. You know, we can take, as a police department, a very small lap and say, you know, yeah, we did it, hooray, our crime stats are down. But it's not that. We're too busy living in a silo. We got to get rid of these silos. Our stats are down. It's because we've had positive economic growth and opportunities in this city. That's what we have done well. We have other avenues for people to go behind. It's not just us out there putting in bad people and putting them in jail and all that. Yes, we're out there doing it, but what really helps is a true partnership with this whole community where we're out hitting, promoting jobs, or promoting other activities for people to do, and something else for them to decide to go back to this thing. I mean, we talk about gang activity and drugs and all this stuff. Well, yeah, that happens very smallly, and we take care of that problem. But I can probably guarantee you 25 years ago, you were more worried about your grandmother going to the grocery store with her purse sitting in her bag and getting that thing stolen and a couple of $100 missing out of it. Well, guess what you got to worry about now is your grandmother getting online and having her complete savings account and life savings taken. So that's the forecasting that we really need to get into and start getting these patterns and start looking at that. But as far as the crime, it's all partnerships, man. We can only do so much. It's the rest of you, and we're going to have real, honest conversations every step of the way, and I'm going to get feedback, even the ones I don't agree with, because I promise you I'm not the smartest people in the room, but I know how to find them when I see them. So that's what we'll do with that part. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Goss. This next question, we'll start with Chief Dugan. We do employee engagement surveys at the city. We've done them for 8 years, and the survey data indicates that morale is low within the Pensacola Police Department. What do you plan to implement quickly to change this?
You know, you have to be present as a chief of police, and you have to be amongst the officers, and you have to talk to them. You know, cops are a unique breed, and I think we're all, you know, we have to remember we're police officers, we're part of society. We're we're mothers and fathers, we're coaches and all that thing, and we're very involved in the local community. But you know, cops are interesting because, you know, they don't like the way things are and they don't like change. And so you have to manage that, and you have to talk to them. And sustainable change needs to be done slowly. It needs to be done deliberately with feedback. And so I think that's the biggest thing is just communicating and being present with them and getting honest feedback from them.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. Chief Goss, same question about morale.
Well, I think we've seen this, and I'm grateful that the mayor is very data-driven because it helps me and it helps us forecast and see what we're looking at. We did another employee engagement survey since the last year. It went out, and employee morale is way back up. I think you can also see that with the support of the FOP towards us. And he's right. It's change is hard for anybody in any organization that you're at, and you really need to know your people. And sometimes it's okay to tell your people no, and it's okay to do that, but let's let them know the why and the why we're doing the no. And that's what they're looking for. They want feedback, they want buy-in, and they want to feel included in everything that we do. And that's why we've opened up more meetings, we've opened up more communication to see exactly what they need, because And it's not just the officers. I mean, I have records clerk and dispatchers. I mean, we're a 24/7 organization. So the surveys are up, which we're good on. We continue to do those, and we continue to get the feedback from them. And I promise you, these guys are the hardest, these men and women are the hardest working guys, and I'm just so proud of all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Chief Winstrom?
Yeah, well, number one, agreeing with my colleagues here, communication is key. As a new chief coming in from the outside, it would be opening those lines of communications as fast as possible. We'll be getting in the squad car, the individual, spending time in dispatch, spending time with records, property room, crime scene technicians, getting to know and listen. Everybody wants to know how they fit into the plan, and they want their voices to be heard. So being present, listening are the main, really the keys to everything, and that's it.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. Chief Winstrom. The next question, we'll start with Chief Goss. While many citizens have positive interactions with our officers, some citizens perceive that some officers are not always professional. As chief, how would you improve the officers' professionalism and interactions with residents?
Well, they better be. It says it on our cars and all our mottos: courtesy, integrity, and professionalism. And we embody that, and for the greatest majority, I see that. One of the things that we do, and if we do identify problems, we'll dang on them because we've got policies and procedures and we know how to correct those behaviors. But I'm not looking for discipline. I'm looking for coaching and training. And if there's somebody that we can train and do better, let's do that. That's why young supervisors are so important. That's why we're stepping up the supervision of young supervisors so they can identify maybe these quirks that we're not hitting. Because let me tell you, nobody ever calls 911 for their best day. Even if I get pulled over, I'm a little nervous, but I always remember how that officer treated me, whether they treated me like a person, and I take that very personally when it's not. I get it, officers have days as well, but hopefully these are coaching moments that we can make it better for them, and that's what I'm looking for. I know we're not perfect, but I'll be the first one to admit when we make mistakes. There will be no cover-ups. It'll be on me, and we'll make those steps to make it better for you, because this is your police department, and it needs to run the way you want it to.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Chief Winstrom?
One thing I tell every officer when they come the first day of work is think of this. Think of the 30% of your paycheck is to have your feelings hurt. I know it's an odd thing to say, but it's something that we encounter on a regular basis when you go, like Chief Goss said, we don't encounter people who call us to say, stop by, I want to have a coffee with you or something. It's people on their worst day. And you're going to hear some words from them and try and get under your skin. We interact with everybody, all the way from billionaires to someone with nothing. But they still have something. They still have that self-respect. And if you try and take that self-respect from them, they will fight you. They will fight you. And that is a bad recipe. So out the door, I tell every officer before they hit the street, respond to every incident as you would want a police officer to respond to your families. I said, when I took over the police department I'm in now, I said very publicly, immediately, that we are going to be a culture of accountability. I'm going to hold you to high standards, and that's not a bad thing. We're going to celebrate that. We're going to celebrate that our police department is held to a high standard so that when that door opens and you see an individual in a Pensacola police uniform, your first reaction is, that is a professional police department that holds its employees to the highest standards.
Yeah, I think it's simple. The golden rule: everybody gets treated with dignity and respect, no matter what their lot in life is. That's really what it comes down to. And if you communicate that and get your officers to understand that, anytime they're interacting with somebody, they just got to put that back in their thought process. Everybody gets treated with dignity and respect. Like Chief Winstrom said, often tell people, what if that were your parents? What if that were your sister, your brother, your kid? How would you want them to be treated? So everybody gets treated with dignity and respect, but it's a cultural type of thing. Police officers are interesting people. I like to say they can be so sensitive at times, but yet so insensitive to others. And you have to make them aware of that. We have to realize how we are sometimes as a profession. And it comes down to the golden rule of treat everybody with dignity and respect.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. The next question will start with Chief Winstrom. We've talked a little bit about significant budget challenges that the PPD faces, including officer pay. What would you do to address these budget challenges?
Well, number one is an overwhelming majority of the budget of any police department is the cost of personnel costs. But personnel have to have the equipment, and they have to have the support to do their job. And it's certainly incumbent on the police chief, two things. Number one, to support the men and women of the police department, to make sure that they have the tools to do their job, but also to be a good steward of the public's money. And that's why the budget process that I'm involved in every year, meet with all the leadership team, hear what their requirements are, hear what their wishes are and their wants. Meet with the executive office, have those conversations. This is optional, and this is, I think that's my time. And come, yeah, but basically, you got to support the men and women, but you also have to realize this is public money. Yeah, you got to be responsible.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Chief Dugan?
It comes down to priorities, communicating with your officers, finding out what their needs are. That is one of the biggest challenges that a chief of police has. The three biggest challenges you have are, one, who are you going to hire, who you're going to promote, and where you're going to place them. Two is how you do discipline. Is it fair and consistent? And then three, which might be sometimes the hardest, is how are you going to spend the money? That's really what it comes down to. When you're looking at technology, what are the recurring costs? How are you going to handle that? How are you planning for the future? You could look at some technology, and it may be the latest and greatest, but it doesn't work. I think we've all had, everybody wants to have the latest iPhone, but if it doesn't work on the network and the carrier you have, then it's not worth it. It's a paperweight. And so you have to look at things, you have to prioritize your needs, you have to be able to forecast. Maybe we don't spend some money on something this year and we do that next year. But you have to be able to forecast, and you have to be wise about how you do it, and you get that information through different feedback of your commanders all the way down to the street.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. Chief Goss, the budget constraints?
Yeah, repeat the question for me, because I'm a...
Yeah. We know that PPD faces significant budget challenges, including officer pay. What will you do to address these challenges?
Well, you're right. Our budget is probably 83% of it goes straight towards salary. So that leaves us 17% on the rest of what we got to pay for. Thank goodness, pay-wise, I think that our mayor was very forward-thinking, and he worked very well with our union. That's one of the things about the union that takes out of my hands. I can be a conduit for the city and for the rest of you. And the mayor provided I think, an unbelievable contract to these guys, and it's kept us really competitive with everyone else. I mean, we were hurting, and he didn't blink an eye. He really cared, went on his campaign promise, and he went forward. And so I really appreciate that part of it. The rest of the 17%, I'm looking at, we got to come up with different creative ways on how to do things. There's a lot of other avenues out there. There's grants, there's public-private partnerships. If you have time, we have Pensacola Finest Foundation. I recommend you to look them up and maybe donate, because it helps a lot with some of the, I tell my guys, and I'm preaching this, it's the same at our household, right, guys? We have wants and we have needs. Wants and needs are two very different things. We really need to focus on the needs and not the wants. So we have to forecast that out. And maybe some of this other public partnerships where we have some exciting things that I think in the future we're in the midst of working on, that we can get some of that private funding so it's not costing you taxpayers money. So 83% is right to my guy's salary, and that's what we need. We need the best qualified. And then the mayor went out there and he did it, and he paid for it. And it sure has made my job a lot easier, and I get to work with some amazing people.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Our next question will start with Chief Dugan. How will you prevent any favoritism or conflicts of interest in the department and ensure a culture of integrity and accountability under your leadership?
You have to ask a lot of questions. Every department out there across the nation has a potential of a good old boy network or a good old girl network, whatever you want to call it. And then when someone else takes over, it's just a different network now in charge. And so you have to be aware of that. You have to look at people's work how do they do things? You have to rely on your frontline supervisors to tell you. When I was chief, quite frankly, when it came to making sergeants and corporals and detectives, I relied on my first line supervisors because I'm not out there answering calls with them. I didn't know a lot of what they did. And so the way but you have to also ask people if they want to push somebody for promotion. You have to ask them, would you take them? Would you have them work for you? And if you're not willing to ask somebody to work for you, then you shouldn't put your name behind them. And so you have to ask people, you have to build a culture of talking to people. And, it's very difficult to figure out who's in what clique and who isn't. But if you hold everyone accountable, the rest of it takes care of itself.
Thank you, Chief Digby. Chief Goss. The question is, how will you prevent any favoritism or conflicts of interest in the department and ensure a culture of integrity and accountability under your leadership?
Well, that's how the loyalty is developed, 27 years. And I know there's a saying, I think, and I hate to use his name, but it's because I'm a Florida State grad, but Nick Saban says to let your players play, right? And and as long as you're treating everybody fairly, you can see, it doesn't always have to be consistently, but as long as you're always fair and you tell the people why, of what's happening. I know who the players are, and sometimes they are better fits at different areas. And so I'm trying to get the best benefit of everybody at this department to where their needs might be showcased. And I want a more well-rounded. So there's this whole thing about favoritism. That's got to be gone. I haven't seen it at our department. We might see little things, but once we identify that problem, I think, and once we go communicate to the ones that we maybe feel affected by it, and I need to hear back. We need to hear back. If you're feeling it, whether it's real or not, if you perceive something, it is something, right? So we need to address it. It doesn't matter what it is in your life. If we perceive something, we need to address it and see the why. So I think we have those conversations and we go, and I don't want favoritism. What I want is the next best person. So when I retire in 10 years, it gets handed off to somebody that's even better than me, right? When I retire, I'm still here. So I want somebody even better than me the next time. So that's not going to become an issue at my department, and it hasn't, and then we'll continue to go. And if we see a problem, we're going to address what the problem is. It's better to get to something quickly before it grows. Thank you.
Chief Goss. Chief
I
Winstrom?
said, sure. A high-functioning police department requires a police chief to be transparent with the public. When a big incident happens, they expect the... Not sure what happens. I think they just picked me. Is that?
Or he just walked out and didn't like your answer. I'm not sure.
It might have been mine.
Anyway, public demands, public expects, public deserves a police chief to be transparent with what's going on in the city, especially when there's a media-worthy event, something important that the chief cares, that the city cares about. It's vital. That same transparency has to translate to how you interact with your employees. It can never be a surprise who got promoted. It can't be a shock because that person's not qualified. Transparency and communication are key with that. I know on a regular basis, not just with the sworn, but with civilians as well. I meet with the union representatives. A lot of times you'll hear from the union representatives facts about what's going on the ground that your leadership team might not feel comfortable even discussing with you. So just as the public is owed transparency, that same transparency is required of the police chief inside the department.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Chief Goss, we'll start with you for the next question. How will you connect with our community and continue the improved police-community relationships that we've seen recently?
Oh, I'll connect with the community because I am the community. I love the community. That's my wheelhouse. I'm so proud of everything that's been accomplished around here. I have a great example of my wife who's done nothing but serve the community in different roles. And there's a saying that they use. You surround yourself with successful people. I think Studer said that. But my grandpa used to have another saying: is you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. It's the same sort of thing. So I think. I am out there constantly with practice, and I want my guys to constantly be involved with this community. I've got rid of, I already talked about, I've got rid of we used to have a division called Community Outreach Division at our police department, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why are we naming that? Because what happens when we say this one division over there is community outreach? Well, guess what every other officer and every other person thinks? That's their job. That's their job. Well, it's not. It's all of our jobs. So when I first took over, I eliminated that name. We just met with some community groups, and I brought an officer. I brought a beat officer with me. I brought a detective with me, a sergeant. Because at every meeting, that's who should be there with it. Because those are the ones who are actually working your community and not just me out there. I'm still going to be there with you, and you're still going to have my number, and I'm still going to be able to talk to you and hear the complaints. But these guys are going to be there with me because they can answer your questions directly. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to learn more and more about being a part of the community they serve. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to pass it on to the next officer and the next officer. Cops have been our own worst enemy for a long time, and we've done a lot to correct our behaviors, but we've got a ways to go and avenues to heal. So everything is about practice and habits and about what you do and really getting out there.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Chief Winstrom?
Sure. The police chief has to be the hardest working person in the police department. Has to be the first to arrive at work, last to go. They have to accept every invitation possible that they can to meet with the community, especially if there's some urgent need, some controversial issue going on, to have those hard conversations with the community. And secondly, the police chief has to make sure that the police officers are empowered, that they know that they have the ability to have those positive community interactions. And I know some of that's limited with personnel, with 911 backlogs, et cetera, which is why recruitment and retention are key. But having officers know that their job is just not to respond to 911 calls, but having those positive community interactions, the follow-up with a crime victim, the problem solving with the business owner, the positive interactions with children, that's key.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Chief Dugan?
In order to have a good relationship with the community, it's an ongoing process. It's constant. You never reach your goal of having the best relationship with the community because it's always changing. And people look at things differently. Why some person may be satisfied with the police, a different person may not be satisfied with that answer. And it's about being present and being in the community. You know, people aren't going to come to you. You as the chief of police, you need to go to them. You go out into their neighborhoods, you go out to their meetings, and you meet with them, and you develop a rapport, and you talk to them, and that's how you get to know them, and that's how you build that trust. But it's about embedding the officers, like Eric said. This is easy because they're both Eric, so I can refer to either one of them. I don't have to remember which one said it. But, you know, you take cops out there to the meetings, and you're present. It's not just about the chief. It's about the entire department having a philosophy of community-oriented policing. Community policing is not a strategy. It's not a program. It's a philosophy of making sure everyone is engaged in that community. And the only way you build that is by being present. And, you know, being the chief of police, I'm sure my wife cringes that I told her I wanted to do this again. It's a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. You have to be willing to work 7 days a week because you just never know what's going to happen. And you're constantly trying to build credit and credibility in the community, and you can lose it just like that. And that's why you have to be present out there.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. This next question really is a two-part question. We'll start with Chief Winstrom for the first question and Chief Dugan for the second, but it's based on the same issue. Our community conducts quality of life surveys, and the data indicates that the trust in policing is lowest in communities of color. What specific policies will you implement in your first year as chief to reduce this perceived racial disparities? And how will the public be able to measure your progress?
The chief has to recognize that although you're policing the entire city, some of your actions that you take are going to disproportionately impact certain communities, and that is if the victims of crime are more likely people of color, you need to spend more time. Number one, you need to realize that any policy change is going to impact those communities more. But number two is you have to realize that you have to spend more time in that community. You have to spend more time working on that community with solutions, supporting that community. Sometimes the police department is not the answers. A lot of crime issues are very complex, but when the police department isn't the answer, if the police chief and the police department leaders can stand shoulder to shoulder with those people working in the community, I want to be there for that as well.
Okay, thank you, Chief Winstrom. Chief Dugan?
Can you repeat that? Because
Sure,
you said it was a two-part. Do I get a second part or same part?
Yeah, Still the first part.
Okay.
So we have quality of life survey data that goes back a number of years here in our community, and it indicates that trust is lowest in communities of color. Trust in the police officers is lowest in communities of color. What specific policies will you implement in your first year to reduce this perceived racial disparities, and how will the public measure your success?
Well, that's a tough one, and what's sad about the state of policing that you probably didn't need to do a survey. I think all three of us would tell you it's the communities of color, especially, that are dissatisfied with the police. It's been that way for several years, and as a profession, we haven't done everything that we should be doing. But those are hard things to measure whether you're being successful. You can look at what type of complaints you're getting from your community, specific neighborhoods. You can look at your crime and see that. But as far as specific policies, you have to be careful that you're not coming up with policies that target a specific neighborhood. You have to do it across the entire city. And so you have to be very careful. That's a very difficult question. It's a fair question, but it's very difficult to answer, because you've got to make sure that you don't have unintended consequences of some of your policies and some of your programs. And that's why I talked about earlier, we would put out there, why do you see this large presence doing traffic law enforcement on this certain street? And that's because we're having speeding complaints, loud mowers, things like that. So when you put things out, this is the problem we're having in this neighborhood, and this is why what we're going to be doing to solve it, I think that's how you do things.
Okay, thank you, Chief Dugan. Chief Goss, the quality of life survey data indicates that trust in policing is lowest in communities of color. So what specific policies would you implement in your first year to address this perceived racial disparities, and how will the public measure your success?
I mean, are we looking at policies, or are we looking at behavior changes? Okay, because that is what it is. It's a culture thing. Police, I mean, there's a long history. Police have not. we have done ourselves no favors at some time in the history in the past, and it's going to take a long time with what we do. How you do that is good, honest police work with transparency and community involvement. Can we recreate what we did in the past? No, but we can own it and say we made mistakes, and we can see it's like anything else. If you stub your toe, you're always going to end up stubbing your toe, and you're going to feel that slight no matter what. And sometimes it's a little more prevalent. And, you know, if you got pulled over 6 months ago, you're going to feel more anxious when you get pulled over again the next time. So this is really about, again, our partnerships. And this isn't, we develop these things when times are calm and when things are going good. So when we're going to hit rough waters sometimes, then we'll know we'll have true partnerships in it. And as long as we're honest and call out our mistakes, and when we do it, I'm telling you, I look at the data, and I know I can say I look at the data all the time, and say it's not there. It doesn't matter. If somebody perceives it, it's there. And we need to do better about telling our wins, about what we're doing when we make a mistake. Let's talk about when we do that. We do have things in place where we quarterly and overly review our data on use of force. That's a big one. And we can go back and we track it, and we see where the issues are, and it gets flagged if there are certain patterns that we see. We also track at the police department we call it TDSR. It's what we do every traffic stop. We have to give out everything about the person: race, color, age, how many people were in the car, reasons for the stop, if you search the car. And so we can actually identify problems, and if we see a problem officer, if there's problems there, then we can identify it and coach and see what the issue is. But based on that, how do you get the data? It's just about, if the community is continuing to talk to me, then I think we're doing a pretty good job. And if I'm listening and opening up, then that's, I think, how we'll measure that.
Okay, thank you, Chief Goss. Chief Dugan, we'll start with you for the second part of that question. It is tied back again to the quality of life data about trust in policing in our communities of color. And this question is about your own personal history with this issue. Do you have an example of addressing this issue in your history, and what policy changes did you implement as a result?
You know, unfortunately, I had a situation as chief where I had 3 officers that I felt was doing racial profiling. And you have to be careful about labeling something racial profiling, because you can't put yourself in the mind of that person. But I also think when, as police officers and as people, when we see it, we know what it is. These officers in particular were pulling over black men and searching them and stuff. And so it became, we got a complaint. We started looking at their body-worn camera footage, and they were stopping people, searching them, put them in the backseat of a police car, at times put them in the backseat of a police car with handcuffs on, searching their car, letting them go, and not writing any reports or anything. And when they stopped one car, there were two women inside, and they looked at the car, and they're like, okay, you're good to go. But then when they stopped two black males in the car, they were searching it and everything. To me, that's racial profiling. That was a perfect example. And so what I ended up doing, unfortunately, I had to fire those three officers, but that's just the way it is sometimes. But the policy I had to put into place was we started doing more quality assurance checks on their body-worn camera footage of the officers, and started checking up, following up more on how are the officers treating people, how are they talking to people. But the first-line supervisors are the ones who should have caught that. They're the ones who should have been paying attention. And so when you talk about a problem like that, that's how I solved it. Unfortunately, though, you put more work on your frontline supervisors.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. Chief Goss, again, tied back to quality of life survey data about trust in policing being lowest in communities of color. Can you provide us an example from your history of dealing with this issue and any policy changes you implemented?
Well, I can tell you this. These two gentlemen on either side of me come from very large departments. And it's very hard to monitor all your control and span and know your people. And it's hard, and it's a lot of work, and I respect what they do. But I can tell you this, I know every single one of my officers, and I know every single one of my sergeants who are well-versed in identifying problems before they happen, and if something does happen, I already talked about the data that we can look at. I already talked about our use of force stats that we follow. I already talked about our traffic stop data that we can follow. We get ahead of that quickly. And this is a culture thing that I haven't seen at this police department. I think that we are small enough that where we regulate ourselves, and if we see somebody doing that, they're going to say something, and that behavior is going to be quick. And if it's not, and I find out, then we'll deal with that when it happens.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Chief Winstrom, again,
Sure.
quality of life data indicating that communities of color have low trust in our police department. A personal example from you
I'll
and
give you-
any policy changes.
Sure, and just to echo or piggyback on what Chief Goss said, we are in a profession where there is really generational mistrust in American policing. If you think about it, it is not so long ago that American police officers wearing uniforms like ours were enforcing black codes, were enforcing Jim Crow laws. If you interact with older members of the community and listen to some of the stories, it's absolutely tragic, the injustices that went through. That is understandable. I know if my grandfather experienced some great injustice and told my father, I might be still talking about it to that day, and when I answer that door and see that person in a uniform, that's going to be in the back of my mind. So I'll give you one personal example for me, and this wasn't too long ago, but it was another injustice. City of Chicago had a policy where if you were an individual that was in public housing and you were arrested with a gun, you were immediately sent to administrative court to be removed from public housing. Oftentimes you would end up unhoused at that time. At the time I was a supervisor, a taxi cab was pulled over and 4 young men were in it, and there was one gun in the taxi cab. Officers charged all 4 of the passengers in the cab with a gun. I reviewed the reports as a supervisor, made the determination that it was an improper stop, and had all of the 4 young men released. One of those young men lived in public housing. His mom contacted me, he was 16 years old, contacted me a couple weeks later and said, because of my son's arrest, the city of Chicago is sending me to administrative court to have me evicted. Is there anything you can do? I had to stick my neck out there. I was literally going against the law department. I said, this is unjust, this is unfair, and I worked with their lawyer to change the entire policy. I got an award from the Cabrini Green Legal Foundation. They were allowed to stay in Cabrini Green, and it changed the whole policy. But that was not ancient history. That was the city of Chicago saying, we're going to kick you out because we need this space and we're going to give it to somebody else. And it was just an inhumane way that city government was treating humans.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Well, now it's down to our closing statements. This is a chance for our candidates to address anything that we haven't covered tonight, or re-emphasize any particular approach they have to our department's future. So you have 2 minutes for your closing statement. We'll begin with Chief Goss.
First off, thank you for this process. Thank you for the mayor and his staff for putting this together, and these guys. This has been a long, long day, and I'm sure they can attest to it, but it's been really nice to get out there and hear from some of y'all directly, and so thank you for that. I've been a part of this community actively for a long time, and what I encourage everybody to go do, no matter what they do, is go out and be active yourself, get involved in an organization, do something like that. I'll give you a prime example. I thought this was a trick on me, because the last time I was in this building, they had me dancing with the stars on something, and I almost killed myself.
That's after.
We were doing it for the Favor House, and thank you, the Fred Astaire Studio, for helping me not embarrass myself too completely during that matter. But I can say on another matter, if you give back to this community and how much, and this is your police department, I'll give you a little example of what I want every member, because that's all we are, is a member of you. It's right here on Palafox, and we'll try to get through it. One time I was doing a fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters for a local organization down here right on Big Palafox. A young lady at the time showed up who was working for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Didn't know her from anybody. She was gorgeous. Well, it ended up turning out 6 years later as my wife. And just by giving back to a community, it gives back to you. And she gave me the greatest thing ever, which is my son. And so I encourage everybody to go out, give back to this community that I love and that you love, because you never know what you get in return. You might be a little selfish and get something back. I'm going to let you know this. When I said it before, this isn't a stepping stone. So when I retire, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to be probably here in this panel. Hopefully I won't have to, because the next guy is going to be so trained up by me that they're just going to slide him right into it. They're like, I can't wait for Goss to be gone, because this guy is going to be way better. But when I do, what you will find me is back in this community, because I'll be bored, and I'll be volunteering at Manna, or I'll be volunteering at Raleigh, or one of these other great organizations throughout this city. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm probably going to go ask Apple Market if I can go bag groceries 3 days a week to have something to do, if they'll have me. So that's what I'm here. But the most concerning thing that I want you to know is that, I came here 27 years ago when I started at the police department. There wasn't a whole lot of opportunity going on downtown. There wasn't. There's no opportunities. When people went for college, they left. They didn't come back. That's not happening now. The growth of this generational growth, and it started way back with them, with a few businessmen, and when Ashton started being mayor, and then now with the transformation, and Mayor Reeves taking it to a whole new level. And I'm just so honored to be just a little part of it. I'm honored to it, but what I'm most looking forward is I want my son to stay here with real opportunities for everybody when I'm gone, so I can enjoy my retirement with him. So I thank you very much. Thank you to these guys for doing it. Thank you to the mayor's office. And seriously, when you do leave here, hit one of these businesses, buy something nice, get a drink or get something to eat on Palafox, because they're going through a lot. But I'm telling you, once it's done, it's going to be amazing, and y'all are going to be super proud about all of it. So thank you all for your time, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Chief Goss. Chief Winstrom, your closing statement?
I want to compliment the mayor too, just throwing it out there. I didn't want to miss that opportunity.
Don't worry about him.
I'll just say this, that my vision for the police department is to, Chief, you're right, police department's doing a fantastic job, statistically safe city. I want this to be the safest city possible. I want this to be the safest city possible. I also want this to be the most trusted police department. And how we get there is by creating a culture of family and a culture of innovation in the police department, always trying to do better. And as chief, my overall goal is to make this the destination police department, the place everyone who's thinking about being a police officer wants to work.
Thank you, Chief Winstrom. Chief Dugan?
Well, sorry, Mayor, I'm not going to do a shameful thank you like they did, you know. You guys, you got to stand for something at some point, you know. But thank you for being here. It's really important. I always enjoy sitting around and discussing law enforcement and policing through various parts of the country. A lot of neighborhoods are unique, but at the same time, we have some of the same problems. All you have to do is watch the show Cops, and you'll see it's a lot of the same problems, same things, just different faces, different names. But it's been a lot of fun today, talking to different people, getting different people's opinions. I assure you that if I am the one chosen, that I will work my butt off for you. And I will do everything I can. Like I said, being the chief of police is a lifestyle. It's not something that I take lightly. You know, I bring a tremendous amount of experience. I have been personally through the ringer from being diagnosed with cancer at the age of 49, having prostate cancer. I have been through the ringer professionally, from having a serial killer to hurricanes to pandemics to riots, and I have traveled the country working with various police departments over the last 4 years. And I'm excited about this opportunity. I think this is a great place to live. This is a city on the move. And like I said, this is a new chapter for the police department, for the city, and I'm just glad to be a part of this whole conversation tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Dugan. I have some closing remarks. Before we get there, can we thank our three finalists? First, let me thank you, the audience, for your participation tonight, for your decorum, for being engaged in this process. This is very much a community process. So for those of you here, those of you who will watch the recording of this, thank you for your efforts here. I want to do a special thank you for the staff of the Sanger. They've been most gracious in hosting us, as well as some of the mayor's staff who've been escorting our finalists around the city today. Thank you for all of them. So tomorrow, our three candidates will have the formal interviews with the city's interview panel. Those will be live streamed tomorrow, so you can watch and record it as well. Following the interviews, Mayor Reeves will make his decision regarding the next chief of police for the city of Pensacola. So on behalf of the mayor and the council, thank you for being part of this process and your continued commitment to our community. Good night.